Emma Carter was a young woman with dreams much bigger than her modest life allowed. At just 23 years old, she worked tirelessly at Daisy's Diner, a small rundown restaurant in the heart of New York City. The chipped paint on the walls and the flickering neon open sign outside mirrored her struggles. Yet she always managed to smile. Emma had a gift, not just for serving customers, but for making people feel seen and valued. Despite her long shifts and meager wages, Emma had a habit that made her stand out. Every night after her shift, she would gather leftover food from the diner and distribute it to the homeless people. She passed on her walk home. To her, it was a small act of kindness, but to those she helped, it meant the world. On one particularly cold evening, rain poured relentlessly, soaking the city streets. As Emma hurried home, clutching her worn jacket tightly around her, she noticed a small figure huddled under a bus stop shelter. It was a young boy, no older than 8, shivering in the storm, his clothes soaked through. She paused, her heart aching at the sight. "Hey there," she said gently, kneeling beside him. "Are you okay? Where are your parents?" The boy looked up, his face pale and frightened. "I don't have anyone," he whispered. "I'm hungry." Without a second thought, Emma took his hand and led him back to the diner. The rain soaked them both, but she didn't care. Once inside, she wrapped him in a warm blanket and served him a steaming bowl of soup. The boy's face lit up as he ate, and for the first time that night, Emma felt a sense of warmth in her chest despite the cold. What Emma didn't realize was that someone had been watching her. Across the street, a sleek black car was parked, its engine idling softly. Inside sat Alexander Reed, a billionaire known for his sharp business mind and private demeanor. He had been driving through the area after a stressful day, hoping the quiet streets would clear his head, but then he saw her. At first, it was just curiosity. He was a young woman out in the rain, kneeling beside a homeless boy. But as Alexander watched Emma lead the boy to the diner and take care of him, he couldn't look away. Her actions were so genuine, so selfless, that they struck a chord deep within him. "Who is she?" Alexander murmured to himself, his gaze fixed on the diner. For the first time in years, Alexander felt something stir inside him, a sense of wonder and admiration he couldn't quite explain. He scribbled down the name of the diner and drove away. But the image of Emma stayed with him long after he returned to his luxurious penthouse. The next few days were a blur for Emma. Between juggling double shifts and taking care of her younger brother, who relied on her to pay for his school fees, she barely had time to think about the boy she had helped. But the memory of his smile lingered, giving her strength to push through her exhaustion. Meanwhile, Alexander couldn't stop thinking about the waitress. He had everything money could buy, yet he couldn't shake the image of her soaking wet in the rain, offering warmth and kindness to someone who had nothing. It wasn't just her actions that captivated him, it was the purity of her heart. He needed to know more about her. One evening, Alexander made a decision. Dressed in a tailored suit that seemed out of place for a diner, he walked through the door of Daisy's. The bell above the door jingled softly, drawing Emma's attention. She was balancing a tray of plates, her hair slightly frizzy from the humidity, but her smile was as radiant as ever. Alexander froze for a moment, struck by the familiarity of her face. Emma greeted him with the same warmth she offered all her customers. "Welcome to Daisy's. Have a seat anywhere you like," she said, her voice cheerful despite the weariness in her eyes. Alexander chose a corner booth, his gaze following her every move as she worked. She treated everyone with the same kindness he had seen that rainy night. She helped an elderly customer count his change, offered a free coffee refill to a struggling mother, and even paused to check on a regular who seemed unusually quiet. Every interaction confirmed what Alexander already knew: this woman was extraordinary. When his meal was finished, Alexander handed Emma the bill without saying much, but as he left, he slipped an envelope under his plate. Emma didn't notice it until she went to clear the table. Inside was a stack of crisp bills, far more than any normal tip. Her hands trembled as she counted the money, her mind racing with questions. She ran outside, searching for the mysterious man, but he was already gone. The sleek black car she had noticed earlier was nowhere in sight. For the rest of the night, Emma couldn't stop wondering, who was he, and why had he left such a generous tip? The next morning, The restaurant buzzed with activity. Emma tied on her apron and began her shift, unaware of how drastically her life was about to change. Her mind was still on the homeless boy she had helped just a few days ago. She hoped he had found a safe place to rest, but her focus quickly turned back to the customers filing in for breakfast. Around midday, the restaurant's front door swung open and a tall, sharply dressed man entered. His tailored suit and polished shoes stood out among the casual diners. Emma didn't notice him at first as she was busy taking an elderly couple's order. But when the hostess approached her, whispering, "That gentleman over there asked for you to be his server," Emma glanced at the man in surprise. She didn't recognize him at first, but when their eyes met, a strange sense of familiarity tugged at her. The man smiled warmly, his gaze lingering as if he were studying her. Emma shrugged off the odd feeling and approached his table, her notepad and pen in hand. "Good afternoon," she said with her usual friendly tone. "What can I get you today?" The man hesitated for a moment before replying, "I'll take the special of the day, but only if you promise to take a break and join me for coffee later." Emma blinked, caught off guard by his request. "Oh, I'm sorry, but I don't usually take breaks during my shift. Is there anything else you'd like with your order?" The man chuckled. "Just the special for now," he said, handing her the menu. As Emma walked away, she couldn't shake the feeling that something about him was different, like he knew her but was choosing not to say so. As the meal progressed, the man observed Emma closely. He saw how she treated every customer with patience and kindness, no matter how busy or stressful it got. She carried trays with practiced ease, smiled at even the grumpiest diners, and checked on everyone's tables to make sure they were satisfied. To him, it was clear Emma wasn't just hardworking, she was extraordinary. When she brought the man his bill, he reached into his wallet and pulled out a credit card. But as she turned to leave, he stopped her. "Wait," he said. "There's something I'd like to ask you." Emma paused, tilting her head curiously. "Yes." The man leaned forward slightly. "Do you remember helping a homeless boy on the street last week?" Her eyes widened in surprise. "Yes, I do," she replied. How do you know about that?" He smiled knowingly. "Let's just say I saw something that day, a young woman who went out of her way to help someone in need. I was impressed by your compassion." Emma blushed, feeling slightly embarrassed. "It was nothing, really. He needed help, and I just did what anyone should do." "Not everyone would have done what you did," the man said firmly. "Most people would have walked by without a second thought." He handed her a folded piece of paper along with the bill. "This is for you," he said. "Open it after I leave." Emma stared at the paper, confused but too polite to refuse. She watched as the man stood, gave her one last smile, and walked out of the restaurant. Her curiosity got the better of her, and she quickly unfolded the note. Inside was a check for $50,000. Beneath the staggering amount, there was a handwritten message. "Your kindness has inspired me. Use this to create the future you deserve. A grateful observer." Emma's heart raced as she clutched the check, her hands trembling. She ran outside, scanning the street for any sign of the man, but he was gone. Her mind swirled with questions. Who was he? Why would he give her such an unbelievable gift? And why did he seem so familiar? That night, as she sat in her tiny apartment, Emma couldn't stop thinking about the mysterious man. She wanted to return the check. It was far too much money for her to accept it. There was no contact information on the note, and she had no idea how to find him. Days turned into weeks, and Emma's life began to change. With the money, she paid off her debts and started saving for her dream of opening a small cafe where everyone, including the homeless, could find a warm meal and a welcoming smile. Yet she still wondered about the man who had given her the chance to turn her life around. Then one day, as she was walking home from the restaurant, a sleek black car pulled up beside her. The window rolled down, and there he faced generous stranger from the restaurant. "I hoped I'd find you," he said with a grin. Emma stopped in her tracks, her heart pounding. "You again? Why did you give me that money? Who are you?" The man stepped out of the car, his expression serious but kind. "I owe you an explanation," he said. "My name is Nathan Blake. I'm the CEO of Blake Enterprises." Emma's jaw dropped. Blake Enterprises was one of the biggest companies in the country, and Nathan Blake was a well-known billionaire. I didn't tell you who I was because I wanted to see how you'd react, he continued. I've spent years building wealth, but I've never seen anyone as selfless as you. Helping that homeless boy wasn't just an act of kindness, it showed who you truly are. Emma was speechless, struggling to process everything. But why would someone like you care about me? I'm just a waitress. Nathan smiled. You're far more than that. You have a heart that money can't buy, and I believe the world needs more people like you. He handed her an envelope. This is a deed to a small cafe downtown. It's yours now. Consider it an investment in someone who deserves it. Tears welled up in Emma's eyes. She tried to refuse, but Nathan insisted. Just promise me one thing, he said. Keep being the person who inspired me. Keep helping others. From that day forward, Emma's life transformed. Her cafe became a haven for those in need, just as she had always dreamed. And though she never fully understood why fate had brought Nathan Blake into her life, she knew one thing for certain: kindness, no matter how small, could change the world. Emma's cafe, which she named Whispers of the Soul, quickly became more than just a business. It became a sanctuary. Located on a corner where sunlight streamed through large windows, the cafe featured mismatched furniture collected from thrift stores, walls adorned with local artists' work, and a community board overflowing with notes of gratitude and support. True to her vision, Emma implemented a pay-it-forward system where customers could purchase extra meals for those who couldn't afford them. A small chalkboard near the register displayed the number of available meals, which never seemed to reach zero thanks to the generosity Emma inspired in others. Nathan visited occasionally, always sitting in a corner booth with minimal fanfare. He marveled at how Emma had transformed his investment into something far more valuable than money could measure. Their friendship deepened over time, built on mutual respect and shared values rather than their vastly different backgrounds. 6 months after opening, Emma received a letter from the homeless boy she had helped that rainy night. His name was Theo, and he had been placed with a loving foster family. He wrote that he never forgot her kindness and asked if he could visit the cafe. When he arrived with his foster parents, Emma embraced him with tears in her eyes, introducing him to everyone as the spark that started it all. As Whispers of the Soul celebrated its first anniversary, Emma stood before the crowd gathered inside. The cafe had expanded to include a small shelter upstairs, with beds for those needing temporary housing. Her staff now included formerly homeless individuals who had found not just employment, but dignity through her program. A year ago, Emma began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. I was just a waitress trying to make ends meet. I never imagined standing here today. She gestured toward Nathan, who nodded encouragingly from his seat. I've learned that kindness isn't just about grand gestures, she continued. It's about seeing people, truly seeing them when the rest of the world looks away. It's about understanding that we're all connected, and that the smallest act can create ripples we never imagined possible. The crowd erupted in applause, but Emma raised her hand for silence. Today, I'm announcing the Whispers of the Soul Foundation, which will help establish similar cafes in other neighborhoods. Nathan has generously offered to match all donations. She smiled at her unlikely friend. Because everyone deserves to be seen, to be valued, and to know that they matter. As the celebration continued around her, Emma stepped outside for a moment of quiet reflection. The neon sign she had designed herself cast a warm glow on the sidewalk. Enter as strangers, leave as friends. She thought about how one rainy night had changed everything, not because she had done anything extraordinary, but because she had simply chosen kindness when it would have been easier to walk away. A familiar black car pulled up, and Nathan joined her on the sidewalk. Penny for your thoughts, he asked. Emma smiled. I was just thinking about how life works in mysterious ways. If you hadn't been driving by that night, if you hadn't stopped to help Theo, Nathan added. Exactly. It makes you wonder how many moments like that we miss every day. Nathan nodded thoughtfully. That's why what you're doing matters so much. You're creating a place where those moments can happen. As they stood in comfortable silence, a young woman approached the cafe, hesitating at the entrance. Emma recognized the uncertainty in her eyes, the same look she had seen in countless others, who weren't sure if they belonged. Welcome to Whispers of the Soul, Emma said warmly, opening the door. Everyone belongs here. The woman stepped inside, and Emma followed, ready to continue the cycle of kindness that had forever changed her life. Behind her, Nathan watched with a sense of profound satisfaction. In a world driven by profit margins and bottom lines, he had found something far more valuably reminder of humanity's capacity for goodness. And so the ripple effect continued, touching lives in ways neither Emma nor Nathan could fully comprehend. Because that's the thing about kindness. Once set in motion, its journey never truly ends. Thank you for sharing this beautiful story with me. If you enjoyed my continuation of the ripple effect of kindness, I'd be grateful if you would subscribe to my channel to receive more heartwarming content like this. Your support helps me continue creating meaningful stories that inspire and uplift.